BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. BlackBoxNed88 on Instagram for the bonus podcast. And just a quick reminder, every Monday is Zodiac Mondays. Wednesday is an Ask Me Anything. That's an AMA, so please drop your questions below for things that you would like discussed here on the show. And Friday is an Anything Goes. Any subject is fair game, mostly talking about true crime, serial killers, the Zodiac Killer, but any subject is welcome. All right, so please share some ideas in the comment section about what you would like to hear about on this channel, and let's get started. Okay, hello everybody. Today is Thursday. Today is the first episode in a new podcast segment that I'm putting out on this channel, and this is going to be devoted to the disappearance of Donna Lass, which occurred in 1970. This is going to be happening in conjunction with all the regularly scheduled episodes that I do on Black Box Online Radio, Zodiac Mondays, the Ask Me Anything on Wednesday, and the Anything Goes Friday segment. And because it is the summer and there's just a little bit more daylight out, you could say, I'm going to be doing another segment on Tuesdays called True Crime Talk Radio. So there'll be 5 episodes coming out for a while. As I said on Wednesday's episode, I don't have any expectation for the time limits on the Disappearance of Donna Lass segments. Whether you're listening to the first one now, I'm not sure if it's going to be a couple weeks or a couple months. Just going to see where this journey leads us. But if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now's a great time to do so you can follow with all of these new episodes that are going to be coming out. And off of YouTube, you can download the show for free at LaunchPad 1, formerly known as LaunchPad DM. There's a link to that in the description box. That is the audio of this program as a pure podcast. Take it on the go, anywhere and anyhow. And I am also the host of the web series Astro Psych 400 that is available here on YouTube. It was a 12-part video series that was done to talk about astrology. I mean, looking into the Zodiac Killer world really got me curious about astrology. Not like I'm a diehard believer or anything. Really, to the contrary, I'm very skeptical about it. So I try to do what some people say, separate the chicken shit from the chicken salad. And there are 12 videos that have been put out on that channel. That series is now complete, Astro Psych 400. I will warn you, though, I do appear on camera. It is mostly video, but some of the segments have been arranged in the audio podcast format, like what you're looking here with the sound mashed with images. And lastly, another great way to support this channel is by visiting the TeeSpring page. There is some merchandise for sale. T-shirts, almost all sizes and colors are listed. And remember, being weird is not a crime. To start with the disappearance of Donna Lass, I wanted this to be an absolute fresh take on the subject, to just start from the ground up and to share everything with you guys. And just looking into Donna Lass online, I found that she had a page at the Charlie Project, and I could not think of a better place to begin talking about somebody's disappearance. So I'm just going to read off some of the info that the Charlie Project has posted here. Donna Lass has been missing since September 6th of 1970. She was missing from South Lake Tahoe, California. Female, Caucasian. She was born on November 3rd of 1944, and if she still were alive at the time of this recording, she would be 76 years old. At the time of her disappearance, she was 25. She was 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighed 135 pounds. Caucasian female with blonde hair and blue eyes. Donna Lass was last seen in the South Lake Tahoe region of California on September 6, 1970. She worked as a registered nurse at the first aid station at the Sahara Hotel Casino, and her last logbook entry was around 1:50 a.m. Her car was parked near her apartment in State Line, Nevada, but nobody saw her leave the casino. She was never heard from again. All of her personal belongings were left behind at her home, except for her purse and the clothes she was wearing the night she vanished. The day after Lass's disappearance, an unidentified male called her place of employment and asked her landlord, told her landlord to say that she would be absent due to a family emergency. Donna Lass was not actually having a family emergency at the time. The caller has never been identified. A postcard, purportedly from the serial killer nicknamed the Zodiac, implied that he had killed Donna Lass. The Zodiac sent many written messages to newspapers and police claiming responsibility for disappearances and murders. But Lass's abduction does not fit his profile, and the postcard was later found to have been forged by a police investigator. The Zodiac has never been identified. He is still considered a possible suspect in the disappearances of Robin Graham and Jeanette Kamahele. However, Lass's case remains unsolved. She is missing under suspicious circumstances. So all kinds of things going on there. Big thank you to the Charlie Project for providing this extensive details of Donna Lass's disappearance. Now, I noticed an enormous red flag just reading this here, that the only thing that is missing is the set of clothes that she was wearing, in addition to her purse. Actually, it says all of her belongings were left behind at her home, except her purse and the clothes she was wearing the night she vanished. Does that sound like someone who would have run away? Does that sound like someone who is just gonna take off and start a new life? I mean, that definitely would be a way to fool people. But that sounds like someone who was abducted, right? And almost certainly people believe that Donna Lass met with some form of foul play, and the Zodiac killer connection could be one thing. I mean, the Zodiac did say an enormous amount of boasts in his letters. The Zodiac is making claims that not only could he not verify, but that were most likely untrue. But with Donna Lass, if we look at her actions, she's at work. Nobody sees her leave work. There is nothing taken from her home. She was wearing the clothes that she had on, and those aren't present. She had her purse with her, of course. That's not present. It sounds like somebody abducted her, and it sounds like she was abducted very close to her job site. But I would like to go over to ZodiacCiphers.com. This is an excellent website. If you aren't reading this one, I would highly recommend it, and it really is a good place for locating articles on not only the Zodiac Killer mystery, but all sorts of true crime cases that could have Zodiac Killer connections. Everything is very well documented at ZodiacCiphers.com. Big thank you to Richard and everybody who has left comments there as well. The Zodiac Killer mailed in the Little List letter on July 26, 1970, setting out his search for society offenders, but this lengthy communication was withheld from publication in the newspapers until October 12, 1970, despite a comprehensive article in the San Francisco Chronicle on September 26, 1970, featuring the disappearance of Donna Lass from Lake Tahoe on September 6 of 1970. The Zodiac never raised his victim total of 13 from July 26th to October 5th, when the 13-hole postcard arrived. He never previously needed any prompting to falsely inflate his victim total in previous communications. Yet a month after the likely murder of Donna Lass from the Sahara Tahoe Hotel and Casino, the Zodiac Killer kept his victim total static, suggesting at this juncture he was not claiming the young nurse as victim 14. That is because he never murdered her. Besides, he would lately retrospectively claim he sought her as a victim victim 12 in the March 22, 1971 Pines card while she was still present in San Francisco, working at the Letterman General Hospital by the Presidio. Donna Lass would have been working as a nurse in the Presidio Park in the relevant time period for her to be sought as victim 12, bearing in mind that the Zodiac Killer was last seen entering the Presidio Park after the murder of Paul Stein on October 11th of 69. He knew that by retrospectively claiming he had targeted Donna Lass in San Francisco before her eventual disappearance, it might carry more weight to his suggested involvement in her demise through the Pines card. The punched hole in the top right of the Pines card was never a hint towards her burial location, because the Zodiac Killer had no idea where her body was located. I just have to jump in right now. The article goes on for a while, and I will look at that, but I need to make a comment about the Zodiac Killer's activities, and this segment isn't going to be purely devoted to the Zodiac Killer. I'm hoping we'll talk much more about Donna Lass, because, as I said, the red flags are already coming up, and it really appears that Donna Lass was abducted, and she's not going out to a bar or something like that at the time of her disappearance. She's not going to the movie theater even. She was at work. I mean, you could always make the case of someone were going to the bar or the movie theater. Oh, well, she met up with somebody that surprised her and came into town, and someone who was a troublesome, problematic individual, and he saw her in public. No, she's at work, so that meant that she's just carrying on with her job, and that someone may have seen her in a vulnerable place, meaning that Donna Lass did not go out of her way to meet this person, and that also strengthens the theory of an abduction, because if she's just going to the bar or the movie theater to meet this guy, then she could have gone with him on her own voluntary terms, and it's not like an impromptu gathering that was arranged. Or think about all the possibilities that could happen at the bar or the movie theater, going to a McDonald's or an IHOP or something like that. People get into a fight, someone did something, even accidentally, that could have caused the death of Donna Lass. That might not even constitute murder, but manslaughter, that could have been a possibility. It doesn't look like that's what happened here, because she's at work. The only things that are missing are her purse and the clothes she was wearing. That sounds like she was abducted. But the Zodiac killer did not abduct the victims. On the Zodiac Mondays episodes, I frequently like to highlight this, because there are numerous people out there who will say that their Zodiac suspect buried the body of a victim. There are numerous people out there who would say that the Zodiac killer abducted this, that, and the other person from down the street. I do not accept any of those, because in the confirmed canonical crimes that were committed by the Zodiac killer between December 20th of 1968 and October 11th of 1969, there are no abductions, to the best of our knowledge. I mean, Ray Grant, author of Zodiac Killer Solved, has disputed the Lake Herman Road claim, which is mainstream, that David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were abducted prior to their murder. Okay, I just want to say that not everyone is in complete agreement with that, but most people do not believe that any of the canonical victims were abducted, and the Zodiac Killer also didn't bury the bodies. That is something that I don't think is disputed at all. Unless something happened that we don't know about that the Zodiac Killer didn't take credit for, but the Zodiac Killer is just running his mouth nonstop, whether it's at the payphone, I also killed those kids last year, good boy, or he is writing in letters taking credit for murders that he didn't commit, or just sending in all kinds of antagonizing taunts, whether it's the Eureka card, the Halloween card, the Santa Claus card, or the Peek Through the Pines card, which is going to be most relevant to the disappearance of Donna Lass. And but what happened to Donna Lass? Let's keep going with this article here from Zodiac Ciphers. Now, when the Sierra Club was aligned over the Sierra Club of Clare Tappan Lodge, the punched hole landed over the Donner of Donner Memorial State Park. This was shown to be likely true when a similar pasted card dubbed the Monticello card arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle on July 13th of 1971, again hinting at the identity of a murdered woman, Kathy Bielek, B-I-L-E-K. This time, the author pasted Woods, April, and near Monticello as a clue to her name. However, on this occasion, the sender would actually direct us to a burial site. Buried in the Oak Hill Memorial Park and Cemetery in the Monticello neighborhood of San Jose was the resting place of Kathy Snoozy, a woman claimed by the Zodiac Killer in the Dripping Pen card on November 8th of 1969. She was the namesake of Kathy Bielek, along with Deborah Furlong, who were all victims of a real murderer, Carl Francis Werner. The Monticello card followed the exact pattern of the Pines card, in which the Zodiac Killer retrospectively claimed the April 11th, 1971 murder of Kathy Bielek in the Villa Montalvo Woods by Saratoga by pasting "Shot Victim 21" on the card. He never murdered Kathy Bielek, and he never murdered Donna Lass. And I think we also need another interjection there. I mean, could you follow all of those names that I was just reading off? It seems like that after October of 1969, and really November 9th of 1969, the Zodiac is no longer writing in letters taking credit for crimes that he actually committed, whether it's the Kathleen Johns incident or even the one we're discussing now, the disappearance of Donna Lass. It seems like whoever is behind writing the letters after November 9th of 1969, is full of crap, for lack of a better term. But to go over to a different news source, we have doenetwork.org, and these missing persons sites are very valuable. They do a lot of good, and not only do they raise exposure and awareness for missing persons cases, they do the things like wanted posters, and it's very good at trying to connect the victims' families to the media, and that is something that is valuable. And someone even proposed this once. It was actually John Lorden, a YouTuber whom I frequently refer to. I frequently cite his videos, and he said what needs to exist with missing persons cases is a liaison in between law enforcement and the victims' families who can coordinate information and the developments, because the families just get left in the dark and they say we want to find out what's happened to our lost family member, and the police say we're not at liberty to say. If you actually had someone who was almost a victims' families advocate, or lack of a better term, or sometimes a victims' family commission that could provide the information that is not privileged to the relatives of the missing person, I think it's a brilliant idea. Will it actually happen? That depends. But anyway, they have a page here. Donna Lass, missing since September 6th, 1970, from South Lake Tahoe in El Dorado County, California. Classification: endangered, missing. Donna Lass was born November 3rd, 1944. She was 25 at the time of her disappearance. Donna Lass was last seen in South Lake Tahoe. She left her residence without her vehicle or personal belongings. Lass worked as a nurse at the Sahara Hotel and Casino. Her last entry in the nurse's logbook was at 1:50 a.m., and although her car was found parked at her apartment in the nearby State Line facility, she wasn't seen after leaving the Sahara. The next day, an unknown male called her landlord and employer, stating that Donna Lass would not be returning due to a family emergency. The call was a hoax, and there has been no trace of Lass ever since. Donna Lass may be a victim of the Zodiac serial killer. Yeah, it does say that, the Zodiac serial killer, though her body has never been found. A Zodiac letter gave clues to the location of her body, but it has never been identified. A few artifacts belonging to Lass were found in what appeared to be a shallow grave, but no body surfaced. Alright, so many details we'll be exploring over the next couple of weeks about all that there. I definitely would like to know more about those artifacts that they've discovered. Now, is there any possibility that somebody drove Donna Lass's car and brought it back to the apartment at State Line? Or, I mean, did she leave work and nobody saw her leave, and then she fell into some suspicious circumstances? Really difficult to know right there, but I think that in both of those cases that would signify that there was an abduction. And let's not pretend that these types of crimes do not happen, that there is that there aren't people out there who are just sexual predators, who are just predators, period, and they want to abduct a young 25-year-old woman in a vulnerable place. So I think, though, it's always important to keep that in mind, but I do have to reinforce one point, that the Zodiac killer was not an abductor or a sexual predator. I mean, let alone, I've been talking about the Zodiac didn't abduct the victims or do anything with the dead bodies of the victims. The Zodiac was not a sexual predator. Even at Lake Berryessa, when Cecilia Shepard was tied up, she was not sexually assaulted. And the book Zodiac Killer Just the Facts talks very frequently about how she had lots of blood that had pooled in her groinal area, and some Zodiac writers even interpreted that as a sexual assault, but I mean, it doesn't appear that it was. And I believe they even have statements from Cecilia Shepard in the police report saying she was not sexually assaulted. The Zodiac could have done anything to her. She was tied up and she had been stabbed numerous times. He did not. The Zodiac didn't sexually assault the victims. Going over to a different website called South Tahoe Now, which has posted an article on the 50th anniversary of the disappearance of Donna Lass from South Lake Tahoe. It was 1:15 in the morning it was 1:15 in the morning of September 6, 1970, when Nurse Donna Lass was working in the first aid room of the Sahara Tahoe Hotel and Casino in State Line, Nevada. Well, I believe the I believe that her apartment was in State Line, Nevada. We've said numerous times that the hotel is actually in California. She made a log entry just before her last patient entered the room, 15 minutes later, 1/2 hour later, before getting off duty. Donna was scheduled to make a log entry at 1:45 a.m., but it was never completed, and she was never seen again. Although her car was found parked at her apartment, she wasn't seen leaving the Sahara. All of her personal belongings were left behind at home, except her purse and her clothes that she was wearing the night she vanished. The next day, an unknown male called her landlord and employer, stating that Lass wouldn't be returning due to a family emergency. The call was a hoax, and there has been no trace of Donna Lass ever since. This year marks the 50th anniversary of Donna Lass's disappearance, and her family and friends are still looking for closure. This, of course, was from last year. The young nurse had moved to South Lake Tahoe in June of that year after working in the Bay Area as a registered nurse at Letterman General Hospital at the Presidio in San Francisco. Before disappearing, Donna Lass was preparing to spend a second night in her newly rented apartment in Monte Verde on the Pioneer Trail. Donna's case remains open and unsolved. Our family is still mourning her loss and seeking closure, said Donna's family in a statement. Donna was a beautiful, responsible, caring, and compassionate young lady who remains deeply missed by her family and numerous friends. We continue to request that anyone who has information as to what happened to Donna Lass, please contact the South Lake Tahoe Police Department. We also want to thank everyone who has tried to help solve Donna Lass's case over the years. Even though 50 years have passed since her disappearance, the Cold Case Squad of South Lake Tahoe, that's the SLTPD, South Lake Tahoe Police Department, and El Dorado County District Attorney's Office, have continued to work on the case. They have collaborated with outside agencies, private investigators, amateur investigators, and various authors for the case. At one time, Lass was identified as a possible victim of the Zodiac killer, though the facts didn't match the behavior of the killer who terrorized the Bay Area in the 1970s. 1970s and 60s, more like it. A postcard had been mailed to the San Francisco Chronicle in March of 1972 that tied Donna Lass to the Zodiac, but in 1999, a retired detective revealed a former Zodiac investigator had admitted to forging the postcard. Now, to throw something in about that, we will talk about that definitely in the future, but why would people do that? I know the reasons why people do that. They have this desire to insert themselves into the case, but how pathetic do you have to be to forge something like that? I mean, I think the only justification in terms of law enforcement is to try and bait the actual Zodiac killer to come out into the public, say something else like, no, that wasn't me who wrote that card. But I mean, the way the Zodiac killer would do that is he would write something like the 340 cipher and it wouldn't get solved for 52 years and be like, that wasn't me on the TV show. I mean, like, the Zodiac was horribly impractical at those situations. But when I was discussing the police strategies with Michael Cole, author of the Zodiac Revisited trilogy, he said very clearly that many times the police wanted to bait the killer into writing more. They wanted to get him to come forward, because if he's writing more letters, there could be more clues, they have more things to investigate, and so on. So, I don't know if that's the exact justification, but we will try and find answers to all of these questions throughout this podcast segment here. But as technology has changed over the years, there is hope that new forensic processes can identify Lass someday. They have been able to extrapolate Donna's DNA profile, and it's been entered into the system for the missing and unidentified persons system. Anyone with new information is asked to call the South Lake Tahoe Police Department detectives at 530-546100. Well, that's an odd way to write a number. 530-54-6100. I think they're missing something there. But anyway, some videos of the South Lake Tahoe Police and Donna Lass's disappearance are available online, and I'll definitely be using those in a future episode. But with Donna Lass, I think you can hear something that is consistent in these articles. Donna has left work, but no one has seen her. Some way she got out of the Sahara casino where she worked. No one saw her leave. Does that mean that the abduction took place at the casino, or did it occur at the apartment where she lived, getting out of her car, so to speak. I mean, there wouldn't be a lot of evidence if she's coming home late at night and she parks her car at the apartment complex in State Line, Nevada, and then somebody abducts her. I mean, sometimes there are signs of a struggle, other times there are not. I mean, especially if it was one of these predators who lures her away from the vehicle. Hey, can you just come down here and help me carry a box? And Ted Bundy used to wear a cast on his arm and say that he couldn't tie up his boat or something like that. And one point that we should always remember about these abducting serial killers is they're the type of people where a woman would get into a car with them that they wouldn't normally do it for any other person. They're very good at making themselves appear harmless. Even the serial killer John Arthur Ackroyd, who's the subject of the documentary Ghosts of Highway 20, and I have an episode on him as well. I mean, someone like him who looks absolutely undesirable and looks like the kind of person who is going to murder you. That's just what they said about him, that he didn't give off a single threatening feeling when being, in his presence, and that's how he was able to abduct women. So, did Donna Lass fall victim to a serial killer? And it doesn't have to be. The alternative could be she was abducted by somebody that she knew, someone who had developed a deep infatuation, and it wasn't a serial killer, sexually driven crime. It was a one-off. It was the one time that this person did that. They just snapped on an impulsive issue when they went after Donna Lass. Normally, many people don't stop after one victim, and there's been a lot of talk about that, whether it's with the Zodiac killer or other serial killers, that the first crime that has been committed was not planned. It was impulsive, somebody snaps, and then they cover their tracks, and they get away with it, and the thrill and exhilaration of committing a murder, or perhaps a very similar crime, but most of the time murder, it leaves them with this sense of, I can do this and I can get caught. So then they keep committing murders because they're so addicted to this thrill killing. I mean, I can't say that about Donna Lass one way or another, but I think that that we're going to have to investigate why did she leave the Sahara casino, or really the time that I think would answer the most questions is not even about why did she leave? I meant, was she going to see a man, or was she going to just drive home from work? But it would be, when did she actually get out the door? Was there some type of motivating factor that prompted her to leave early? Nobody saw her leave. It sounds like she's not saying goodnight to anybody. Okay, well, see you next time. It sounds like there's none of that. So, immediately, not gonna lie, I said this was a fresh take, first set of eyes, first glance, prima facie response. I was inclined to believe that she had been abducted somewhere close to her job site. But then, what are these news articles saying about how her car is back at State Line, Nevada? And I think that there was an error in that. It seems like she's working at the Sahara Casino, which is across the California line, South Lake Tahoe, California, and then her apartment is in Nevada. I actually just returned from Nevada a couple weeks ago. I went there for the first time, and oh my gosh, you would not believe how many casinos are there. Even these tiny little desert towns where they have nothing but scrap iron and sculptures made of scrap iron dotting the desert. And then, oh look, here's a massive casino, or here's just another tiny casino next to a massive casino. All kinds of casinos and slot machines out there in the desert, and that's not a bad thing. It's just an observation. But so it sounds like that was a very big place of employment for many people, and the casino circuit seems to be a way that many people make a living in both Western, or I should say it's Eastern California, really, the desert, and on to the Nevada side. So I have one last article that I would like to go through here, and this is from the Tahoe Daily Tribune, and it was written by Gregory Crofton, investigator. Zodiac killer struck in Tahoe. Labor Day. 30 years ago, a young woman disappeared from a casino nursing station, and she was never found. Information presented to law enforcement agencies Thursday may link the woman's disappearance to the Zodiac killer, a man who many people believe murdered at least 7 people in California and Nevada in the late 1960s and 70s. All right, I was waiting for this. I was waiting to get to this point. Here's another issue about the Zodiac killer. The Zodiac did not operate in the state of Nevada, whether it's State Line, Nevada, or something where Donna Lass's apartment was. California, yes, okay, but the Zodiac did not operate in Nevada. Lake Herman Road, Blue Rock Springs, Lake Berryessa, and the Paulstein murder in Presidio Heights, those occurred in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm also someone who does not endorse or believe that the Zodiac killer murdered Sherry Jo Bates in Riverside, California. I believe the Zodiac operated in the Bay Area unless I see some convincing info otherwise. Information presented to law enforcement agencies on Thursday may link the woman's disappearance to the Zodiac killer, the man who may have murdered at least 7 people in California and Nevada in the late 1960s and 70s. Law enforcement agents from El Dorado and Douglas County met to discuss the reopening of the Donna Lass case. The 25-year-old disappeared while working as a registered nurse at the Sahara Tahoe Casino First Aid Station. During the 1970s, the Sahara was a state-line casino located where the Horizon Casino Resort is today. 2 members of the Lass family and a retired detective from Groveland, California, came Thursday to South Lake Tahoe police station to tell agents they believe that Donna Lass was abducted and murdered by the Zodiac killer. There are suspicions that Donna Lass was a victim of the Zodiac and that South Lake Tahoe Sergeant Tom O'Connor has a case, but we haven't actually established that she was murdered. I mean, that's another big thing with Donna Lass. Who's to say that she was murdered immediately after abduction or not, and what really happened? We haven't even found the body yet. She was a very responsible person. For her to disappear doesn't add up and it doesn't make sense. Now, at least we're in some agreement there. Just looking at this, like first glance, right? It doesn't appear that there's anything to suggest that she ran away or that she was going on an unplanned trip and that guy who called in was actually with Donna Lass voluntarily, that hoax caller. I mean, nothing about this suggests anything to be voluntary. I mean, people would at least bring a toothbrush with them or something. Oh no, we're going to get to something dark here. Harvey Hines, a retired detective, said he had been investigating the Zodiac killer since 1973. He retired in 1992 from the California Police Department, ending a 30-year career in law enforcement. He was joined Thursday by Mary and Don Pilker, Donna Lass's sister and nephew. What I've wanted to do for a long time is to hand over my case to some agency and let them run with it, Hines said. I don't care if I get a dime's worth of credit as long as someone closes it out. Donna Lass had moved to South Shore from San Francisco, California 3 months before she disappeared. She was working a 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift at the nurse's station. The last entry in her logbook was listed at 1:45 a.m., If you notice that this is also turning into something that seems to be very inconsistent, some places are saying 1:50 a.m., some places are saying 1:15 a.m. The most previous article said 1:15, like 1:5, and this says 1:45 a.m. And there was even that other one that said that she was supposed to put in the last entry, but she did not. Donna Lass should have been heading home to the apartment she had just rented on the California side, but Hines thinks she was abducted at work. There was a lot of evidence inside the Sahara Tahoe Casino that she left directly from there. She was a very personal person. Yeah, it's an odd way of putting it, Harvey Hines. She was a very personal person, and she had left a lot of personal items behind. An open letter, a dirty uniform on her log. A pen was dragged from the last word she wrote to the bottom of the page. What? Creepy. Donna was never seen or heard from again. Her sister Mary came to the South Shore to help search for Donna in 1970. She and other family members spent about 2 weeks in the area hoping for a lead. Then they went back to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. South Dakota will come up a lot in the Zodiac killer mystery. Have you heard of a place called Watertown? Mary said she believes Hines' report is the key to solving Donna's case. She's been in contact with Hines since 1974, but only recently did her family take a serious look at the information that he compiled. By the way, Harvey Hines is, of course, the man who brought Lawrence Kane forward as a Zodiac killer suspect. After all these years, I met with Harvey Hines about a month ago, said Don Pilker, Mary's 35-year-old son. I went down to the Bay Area and I went through the report with him page by page. My commitment and my mother's commitment to him that day was that it's now going to happen. We just want some resolve, and we finally believe that we are going to get it. Law enforcement agencies took a cautious stance to the situation Thursday back in the 1970s. The initial investigations of Donna Lass, Douglas County, and El Dorado County may have been competing to solve the case rather than working together and sharing information. We're going to be exploring a lot about Lawrence Kane in the Donna Lass segment here on Black Box Online Radio, and there may even be an entire episode devoted to Lawrence Kane, but I think you can see that that's where Harvey Hines is going to be going with this, although it's quite odd that Lawrence Kane's name is not mentioned here in the article. I think they wanted to perhaps talk more about the Zodiac killer, but I'll give you the final paragraph anyway. We're committed to reviewing all aspects of the investigation, and we will bring forward any new information that's relevant, said Douglas County Sheriff Sergeant Tim Minister. We've been in contact with the San Francisco Police Department regarding the Zodiac murders, and as of yet, we can't commit to say that this is Zodiac-related. There's been some investigation done on both sides. We plan to share it with the police department, and they have agreed to do the same. See, this isn't really the type of news that I was hoping for. I thought they were going to say that they have a reason why they think that there could actually be a Zodiac connection other than these scraps of paper that have been mailed in with the Zodiac mumbling some gobbledygook on. But I am not the biggest fan of Harvey Hines. I will say that first and foremost, and that'll be coming out in some future episodes, all of the reasons why. However, with the disappearance of Donna Lass, I just want to ask you guys this as the first challenge question. Do you think there's any possibility that this woman was just abducted by a sexual predator, that she was somebody who worked from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., she got off at 2 o'clock in the morning every night, someone could have been following her, paying attention to her movements if they were targeting her specifically, or if she wasn't targeted specifically, somebody could have just seen this 25-year-old woman walking around at 1:30, 1:45, 1:50 in the morning, no matter when it was, abducted her and driven her to a place and did who knows what. So I definitely get that as my gut feeling. Like, if you have to talk about a first instinct, like that initial reaction you get, it seems that someone just abducted her very close to the workstation. But then you would have had someone drive her car back. The other possibility is that she could have driven back to the apartment, and she got out of her car like normally, and she was either lured away from it, or she was just snatched by some guy. But I don't want to put those forward as like pure theories. Here's what I think happened. I'm just some guy who has read some articles and gathered a couple initial suspicions. I'm going to be talking about this in much greater detail, as you see that this is part 1. This was meant to be an introduction to look at some of the basic pieces of material, talking about the disappearance of Donna Lass from 1970. And the big things that we're going to need to smooth over are, when did she leave work? When was the final entry in her nurse's log? Who drove that car back to Donna's apartment? No matter what, though, it's very weird for people to abduct someone and then drive their car anywhere, because, you would be contaminating it with all kinds of evidence when you didn't have to. Although, it does appear that the situation has been staged somewhat, so if somebody's calling in saying that Donna Lass has a family emergency and no such family emergency exists, well, someone is definitely trying to make it look like everything is normal when it's not. But the fact that only her purse and the clothes she was wearing were missing, that makes it sound like this was an unplanned disappearance. Donna didn't just run away and start a new life somewhere. I think most parties are in agreement with that, and many people do believe that Donna Lass was murdered. Was this the Zodiac killer? We will try and explore that question. I'm leaning towards no already. However, I always consider new evidence and new observations, and please look out for an episode in the future about Lawrence Kane and his connections to the disappearance of Donna Lass. No matter what, though, my heart really goes out to the family, because just think of this. Your sister or your daughter just goes to work and then doesn't come home one night. What happened to her? We may never know. Donna, if you're out there, love and prayers coming your way. If not, rest in peace. And Nothing but condolences to the family. Alright, so please look out for another episode next Thursday on the disappearance of Donna Lass from South Lake Tahoe. And I will see you guys on Instagram for the bonus podcast. Until next time.